had their relationships, but almost all these relationships have their ups and downs. So if you look at Russia and China, Russia and USA, Russia and Europe, India and China, India and USA, you will actually see over a period of time, there are good periods, there are sometimes not so good periods, there are difficulties, there are stresses, and there are very also good memories and great achievements. To me, what is actually exceptional about India-Russia relations is from the early 50s, it actually for 70, 80 odd years, and there have been big changes in this period. You know, this was a period when actually the Soviet Union became Russian Federation, among other countries. When actually big changes have happened in world politics, when Russia has actually transformed, India has grown. And yet, if there is one constant actually in world politics, it has actually been the relationship with India-Russia. So everywhere else, actually, you get the question when you look at any relationship, why has this relationship changed? I think we are the only two countries which have to answer why has this relationship not changed. And I can think of many reasons. One, of course, that if you look at the map of the world, if you look at the continental mass, it is natural as two big countries of the central landmass in the world, India and Russia, have many things which bring them together. But I would say a second reason has been that perhaps more than many other countries, and we have to give tribute to all those who had that vision and that judgment, there was great care taken by the leaderships, by the governments, by stakeholders of different times to actually nurture, to look after this relationship. Ambassador referred to the early 90s. Now, I don't know, I'm curious, how many of you have been in, I'm not asking the Russians, how many Indians or people of Indian origin have lived here for more than 30 years? Okay. No, it's a good sample, okay? Now, those who have lived more than 30 years would remember, you know, what some of the challenges of the early 90s, okay? But think back on that period. Even then, the relationship was very steady. Even then, you know, somewhere there was that belief that the two countries would care for each other, would look after each other, would make that extra effort. So I would make the point that this is today a relationship of exceptional steadiness and consistency. It is a relationship which has held firm despite all the turbulence in world politics over the last 40, 50 years. It is a relationship where the leaderships and the governments have made a great effort. But I want to make especially this point, it is a relationship with great sentiment and where all the stakeholders of the relationship, especially at a popular level, I would say, have contributed really to keep this relationship as warm and as friendly as it is today. So, you know, it's not often as a foreign minister that I go to countries and I'm able really to look back from the time of independence at a relationship and genuinely tell the Indian community or tell the other stakeholders that a large part of it is actually due to the popular sentiment. And I can say this, that the popular sentiment is as strong it's strong in both countries. There is a kind of an X factor, you can say, in the relationship, which has actually been of great help to those who are building and trying to take it forward even today. Now, if one fast forwards and looks at the world today, I think all of you can see that the world today is very different from what it is 10 years, 20 years ago. And it will be very different 10 years from now from what it is today. Take India. We were 10 years ago the 10th largest economy in the world. Today we are the 5th largest. I think in a few years we will be the 3rd largest, hopefully beyond that as well. And it's not just the size of the economy. If one looks today at the state of development, the influence and impact on the world, and in many ways, the Indian community abroad is actually the best testimony that if I have to explain to someone what has been the impact of India on the world, one answer for me would be look at the Indian community across the world. They themselves are the impact. They themselves are the change. That the contribution they make, the contribution the influence that they have, that itself is a sign of changing times. So the official name of our relationship is Special and Privileged Strategic Partnership. So believe me, every word means something. That these are not lightly chosen words, that they have a message. That is a message which captures the history of the last 78 years, and it certainly reflects the sentiments and the hopes for the next many, many decades to come. Now, having said that, let me today talk about some recent developments in our ties. I think many of you either directly or indirectly are associated with the world of trade, of business, of investment. And you would have seen that there's been actually a very, very big expansion in our economic cooperation. 2 years ago, our trade with Russia was about $12 to $14 billion. Last year, it was $50 billion. This year, I would predict it will be even higher. Now, this is very good news, but it's also a challenge. It is a challenge because while the economic relationship has grown overall, we would like to see India's exports to Russia also grow, maybe not exactly equal, but at least in very large measure. And much of that responsibility is on all of you. That we as a government can give policy guidance, we can give encouragement, we can help with sorting out problems. But at the end of the day, business has to be done by business. And there are today possibilities for Indian exports to grow and overall India-Russia economic cooperation to grow. Now, why do I particularly say this to the community? Because from what I can see, and today I spent a large part of my morning with Deputy Prime Minister Denis Mantorov, I feel today that the many people in Russia are not as familiar with what has changed in India. That if you look at who are the new players in India, what are the new businesses in India, where is it we can find a right fit? It could be, in pharma, it could be in agriculture, it could be in something digital, in IT. Somewhere there are still gaps in, I would say, updating knowledge and understanding about India. So I would today actually, as Foreign Minister, make a request to the community that if you can actually make that extra effort, all of you live, amongst Russians, amidst Russians, you have friends, you have relationships, You have a great deal of trust from people with whom you work. I would like you today to use all that to grow what is a common goal, a common good of these two countries. That if, I have no doubt in my mind that 50 billion, within a matter of a few years can become 100 billion, if we all put our minds to it. If we can, and a lot of what India offers to the world today, if you look at where India is competitive today in the world, we are big exporters, we are regarded as a pharmacy of the world. You saw how we stepped forward, especially during the COVID, not just in vaccines, but in other medicines as well. If one looks at food products, at marine products, if you look even at agricultural trade, you look at auto parts, you look at engineering goods, there is a world out there. It is just that much of Russian business has not discovered it or not familiar with the changes, what is the new industry which has emerged in the last 20 years. So that would be my first message to you. My second message is actually in terms of larger societal interaction. As I said, the feelings of the people for each other has always been a very powerful driver of this relationship. So it's absolutely vital that we keep that strong and we keep that burning bright. And to do that, there is, a big sort of range of activities out there. It could be education, it could be tourism, it could be relationships of, different domains and civil society organizations with each other. But how do we not just do more business with each other, but how do we, beyond business, actually interact with each other? And I would say, for me, particularly tourism, encouraging more cultural exchange. What we saw our young friends doing just now. Culture has always been a very strong element in the tradition. It's a very traditional element. I mean, some of the finest Indologists in the world were actually from Russia. That if one look, whether you look at arts, you look at performing arts, you look at fine arts, you look at knowledge about India, there was a great tradition out there. We must keep that tradition going. We must find ways of making it contemporary. We must find ways of interesting young Russians today in India. And to me, the best way of interesting anybody is to first get them to visit. So when Prime Minister Modi travels out, he has one request which he always makes of the community. On his behalf, I make that request to you. Please ask 5 friends of yours. Not just ask, please make sure 5 friends of yours visit India. If each one of you in a community abroad can actually get 5 friends to India, believe me, you are making actually a very important contribution, because those 5 friends will certainly, in their own turn, get others close to them to also do the same. Now, where, my own foreign policy business is concerned, I just want to say, between us and Russia, things are very good, very strong. We are, we deal with each other very openly, very confidently. We are members of many organizations. BRICS is the most notable. Russia will have the presidency in the coming year. We are very committed to supporting their successful presidency. We ourselves have just completed the G20 presidency, which many of you know, and we got very strong cooperation from Russia to ensure that our chairship was very successful. So I can say broadly on the diplomatic side, I'm meeting Foreign Minister Lavrov tomorrow. So, but these are meetings I look forward